This is a story about two men in one bank. One, a new CEO who saw kindness as weakness. The other, an old janitor he humiliated every single day for being slow. But the CEO made one life-changing mistake. He never imagined the janitor he was mocking secretly owned the entire bank. Have you ever felt completely invisible at your job? Have you ever watched someone powerful bully a person who couldn't fight back? This story is for anyone who has ever felt a shocking sense of injustice and prayed for a plot twist. You are about to meet Charles Wood, a ruthless CEO obsessed with power, and Sophia Powell, a kind teller who risks everything to object. But the real story revolves around the old janitor they think they know. We are about to show you the shocking moment this CEO's world comes crashing down in the most emotional and heart-touching kindness test ever recorded. This isn't just a story about a secret owner. It's a drama of humiliation, true love for justice, and ultimate redemption. What happens when the man you fire is the one who holds your entire life in his hands? Stick with us to see the final, shocking confrontation. If you believe that kindness is a superpower and not a weakness, comment justice below right now. Curta este video as a sign of respect for Sophia Powell's courage, comparto with someone who needs to see kindness win, and inscribes and hit the bell so you never miss a story of true redemption. Let's get into this life-changing story. The air in the central bank lobby was always thick with tension. But since the arrival of the new CEO, Charles Wood, it had become suffocating. He was a man allergic to anything slow, a whirlwind of sharp suits. His arrival promised efficiency, but it delivered a quiet, creeping drama. This wasn't just business for Charles Wood, it felt like a mission. A mission to purge anything he deemed weak, and his primary target, it seemed, was the methodical, quiet, old janitor who polished the floors. The janitor, a man who seemed to blend into the marble, was steady. To Charles Wood, steady was just a polite word for painfully slow. He never missed a spot, but he took his time, lost in his work. This simple act of mopping became a daily, public spectacle of humiliation. Charles would stand, arms crossed, a storm cloud waiting to burst. It was a sickening performance of a rich man-poor woman dynamic, except this wasn't a love story, it was just pure, cold cruelty. He seemed to relish the power, the way the bank employees would freeze. Charles viewed this old janitor as a symbol of the old, inefficient ways. A stain to be scrubbed out, just like the smudges on the glass. The humiliation wasn't a byproduct, it was the entire point. It was a warning shot fired at everyone: perform, or be replaced. This daily drama was his tool to assert dominance, and the janitor was, unfortunately, the perfect, silent nail to hammer. Are you paid by the hour or by the century? Charles' voice finally cracked. The old janitor flinched, pausing his mop, his shoulders stooping. Humiliated, he simply looked down, which only seemed to enrage Charles more. This is a high-finance bank, not a retirement home. Pick up the pace. The humiliation was stark, brutal, and designed to send a message to all. It was a twisted kindness test that everyone was failing by staying silent, afraid to lose their jobs over a simple janitor. But one voice, though trembling, cut right back. "Mr. Wood, that's enough." It was Sophia Powell, a teller from Station 3, her face flushed. She wasn't an executive, but her integrity was non-negotiable. The entire bank froze. You could hear a pin drop. It was a shocking move. Sophia Powell had just signed her own death warrant, all for an old janitor. It was a moment of pure, emotional defiance, a crack in the silence that changed the entire atmosphere of the room in an instant. The drama had reached a fever pitch, and the silence was deafening. Everyone watched, holding their breath, caught between fear and a shocking spark of admiration for Sophia Powell. This wasn't just a bank lobby, it was an arena, and Sophia had just stepped in to face the lion. This was a life-changing decision, a line crossed in the sand. What one word describes Sophia's courage in this moment? It was a true heart-touching display of character against power. Charles Wood turned, his eyes narrowing to absolute icy slits. He hadn't anticipated this complication, this plot twist to his morning. He looked at Sophia Powell as if she were a new species of insect. In his world, you didn't risk your career for the help, especially not a slow old janitor. To him, her act wasn't bravery, it was naivete. He processed her interruption as a fundamental breakdown of the hierarchy, a challenge he would have to crush to maintain control. Sophia held his gaze, her heart hammering but her resolve hardening. He's doing his job. You have no right to speak to him, or anyone, that way. Charles let out a short, cold laugh. It was a heart-touching risk. He simply turned his back on her, a dismissal more potent than any word, and strode into his sterile glass office. The kindness test had begun. But this life-changing moment set two very different people on a collision course, and redemption for one of them seemed utterly impossible. Charles Wood was, in every sense of the word, a shark. He didn't just climb the corporate ladder, he devoured it. His worldview was brutally simple: efficiency was God, and empathy was a sin. The bank for him wasn't a community service, it was a machine for profit. Any slow or inefficient part had to be ripped out, no matter the cost. The humiliation he inflicted on the old janitor wasn't personal, it was just, in his twisted mind, cleaning house. He saw kindness as a dangerous liability, a fatal flaw in business. Charles would genuinely believe that respect was something you earn with fear. His drama in the lobby was a calculated performance of power. He wanted every employee to see what happens when someone is slow. He was building a culture of ruthless perfection, and Sophia Powell's outburst was a direct threat to that culture, an act of rebellion that he would have to manage, and likely, extinguish. Sophia Powell, on the other hand, was the bank's beating heart. She wasn't just a teller, she was a confidant to the elderly customers, a patient guide to those confused by new systems. She operated on a radical principle: everyone deserves dignity. This wasn't a naive love story ideal, it was her core code. She saw the bank as a pillar of the community, built on trust, and she knew trust was built one small, kind act at a time. She believed treating everyone with respect wasn't just nice, it was smart. It was the glue that held the entire institution together. When Charles Wood humiliated the old janitor, he wasn't just being cruel, he was actively damaging the bank's foundation, poisoning the well. Her objection wasn't a shocking emotional outburst, it was a logical defense of the very principles that made the bank successful in the first place. Her emotional response was, in fact, the most professional one. Charles saw the old janitor as nothing more than a worn-out mop. A piece of equipment that was past its prime and slowing down the line.
The janitor represented everything Charles was trying to escape: age, perceived weakness, and a lack of aggressive ambition. The man's quiet dignity was, to Charles, an infuriating sign of weakness. It was a constant, silent reproach to his own frantic, empty hustle, and he couldn't stand to look at it for one more second. Sophia, however, saw the old janitor as part of the bank's family. She saw the meticulous care he took, the way he had gnawed quietly to her. He wasn't just a help, he was a human being doing a thankless job. Her respect for him was automatic, not based on his title or speed. This fundamental difference in perception, seeing a man versus an obstacle, was a plot twist in their philosophies that made conflict inevitable. It was a classic rich man, poor woman gap, but in terms of spirit, this clash of titans, one of industry, one of integrity, was just beginning. Charles was determined to create a fortress of cold efficiency. Sophia Powell was a lone soldier defending the human element. The bank had become their battlefield, a sterile, marble-floored stage for a drama about the very soul of the company. The owner of the bank, whoever they were, was unknowingly presiding over a kindness test that would have life-changing consequences. Charles made a mental note to check Sophia's performance reviews. He was certain he'd find some flaw, some justification to dismiss her. This kindness of hers was a disease, and he intended to be the cure. He couldn't have his authority questioned, especially not by a teller, and certainly not over a slow old janitor who was already on thin ice. The redemption of his bank depended on purging this weakness. He had no idea his own redemption would depend on embracing it. The old janitor was a fixture, a shadow in the periphery. He was a human furniture most people, wrapped up in their own drama, looked right through. In the bustling bank, he was the only point of quiet, of calm. His presence was as regular as the ticking of the grand lobby clock. But to Charles Wood, he was a constant, grating reminder of inefficiency. A slow cog in the high-speed machine Charles was trying to perfect. A speck of dust on the lens of his perfect corporate world. He became Charles's favorite target for the morning's ritual drama. The humiliation was a performance, a way for Charles to vent his impatience. The old janitor never talked back, never raised his voice, never even met his gaze. He just absorbed it. His patience seemed infinite, which only aggravated Charles even more. How could someone be so passive, so slow? It was a shocking display of cruelty on one side and stoicism on the other, leaving other employees feeling humiliated just by bearing witness. But what nobody saw, what Charles and his arrogance couldn't see, was that the janitor was always watching. His eyes weren't vacant at all. They were sharp, analytical. He wasn't just lost in thought, he was collecting data, observing the bank's true inner workings. He saw the fear Charles inspired and the casual disdain he showed. This old janitor wasn't just a cleaner, he was a silent judge, and the entire bank, unbeknownst to them, was undergoing a kindness test. He saw the way the managers groveled before Charles Wood. He saw the whispers, the infighting, the petty, low-stakes drama. He saw the cutthroat culture the new CEO was actively cultivating. In his silence, he swept up not just the physical dust, but the small betrayals that collected in the corners of the opulent building. It was a classic rich man, poor woman, or, in this case, janitor dynamic, where raw power made people blind to who truly held the cards. But then, he would watch Sophia Powell, and something in his demeanor would shift. She was a lone exception to that creeping culture of fear. He saw her smile at difficult customers, her patience genuine and heart-touching. He saw her help a stressed-out colleague, asking for nothing in return. And he saw her defend him, a shocking and deeply emotional act of courage. Sophia Powell wasn't just nice, she was strong in a way Charles could never, ever comprehend. His eyes, when they rested on her, were undeniably kind. It was a look of approval, almost paternal. It was a quiet, heart-touching moment of silent connection amid the chaos. He saw in her the embodiment of true love for humanity, the kind of integrity that couldn't be bought, bullied, or broken. She was the only real light in that increasingly dark bank, and he became her silent protector in a way she couldn't possibly know. This silent observation was the plot twist nobody saw coming. The janitor, supposedly the most powerless man in the building, was perhaps the only one who had a clear view of everything. He was a human security camera, recording the unvarnished truth. The humiliation he endured was a small price to pay for the intel he was gathering. The actual owner of the bank would certainly be interested in what this old janitor had seen. He continued his slow, steady work, mopping the marble floors. But now his job had a dual purpose. He wasn't just cleaning the grime, he was testing the souls. He watched Sophia Powell with kind eyes, seeing in her potential for redemption for the bank's sick soul. The kindness test was in full swing, and Sophia Powell was the only one passing. This life-changing drama was far from over. The afternoon lull was shattered by the sharp clatter of porcelain on marble. The old janitor, moving perhaps a bit too slow for the midday rush, had spilled a tray of discarded coffee cups near the executive elevators. It was an honest mistake, but to Charles Wood, it was a cardinal sin. He strode out his office, his face a mass of thunder. This is precisely what I'm talking about. He boomed, the drama echoing. This is a professional bank, not a clumsy diner. The humiliation was immediate and total. The old janitor froze, his hands trembling as he tried to pick up the mess. Charles didn't just reprimand, he humiliated him, enjoying the show. He pointed at the stain, then at the janitor. You are a liability. This shocking cruelty wasn't just for the janitor, it was for everyone. It was another kindness test designed to see who would dare to flinch. The rich man, poor woman gap was on full display for all to see. Employees scurried away, avoiding eye contact, desperate not to be associated with the janitor's failure. Charles would sneered, "Clean this up, and try to do it before the next ice age." He loved the sound of his own power, the emotional damage he inflicted. He saw the old janitor as a symbol of weakness to be purged. This act was just one more step in his plan for redemption of the bank. Or so he told himself, justify his own toxic behavior. Only Sophia Powell stayed. She waited until the lobby thinned out. Long after her shift had officially ended, she found the old janitor still on his hands and knees, struggling with the dark, sticky stain. He looked defeated, humiliated beyond words. Sophia Powell quietly grabbed a cloth from his cart and knelt beside him. She didn't say a word, she just started to help. A silent ally and a heart-touching display of pure, unadulterated kindness. Charles, leaving for the night, spotted them from his glass office. He saw Sophia Powell on her knees, scrubbing the floor like a janitor. He scoffed, disgusted by the sight. He strode over, his footsteps loud. "Ms. Powell, what do you think you're doing? This is a waste of your time." He genuinely couldn't comprehend why she would lower herself. This is what he is paid for. You are paid to be a teller. His confusion was, in its own way, almost a plot twist. Sophia looked up, her eyes tired but firm, the smell of coffee on her hands. "It's called helping, Mr. Wood. It's a faster way to get the job done." Charles just shook his head, baffled by her logic. "Your time is bank time. Wasting it is wasting my money." He walked away, dismissing her act as utter foolishness. This life-changing interaction only deepened the rift between them. He saw a wasted asset. She saw a fellow human being. The old janitor finally looked at her, his eyes shining with unshed tears. He nodded once, a gesture so profound it was almost heart-touching. She had passed another kindness test without even knowing she was taking it. This simple act of helping him clean a mess Charles had exacerbated was a shocking act of defiance against the bank's new, cold culture. Sophia Powell was proven to be a problem for Charles' sterile world, but a beacon of hope for the silent, watching owner. Sophia just smiled weakly, patting his arm before she left. She had no idea that this small act of kindness was a life-changing moment. It had solidified her place in this unfolding drama. Be honest. Would you have stopped to help the janitor? It was a plot twist in the janitor's quiet observation. He now knew, without a shadow of a doubt, who Sophia Powell truly was. Her true love for people was her greatest strength. A few days later, the bank was quiet during the lunch hour. Sophia Powell was on her break, sitting on a bench in the atrium. She noticed the old janitor was also on his break, sitting alone, but he wasn't eating. In fact, she realized she had never seen him eat. He just sat, hands folded, looking tired and much older than his years. It was a heart-touching and lonely sight that tugged at her. The drama of the bank seemed to weigh heavily on his slow shoulders. Sophia, without a second thought, got up and walked over to him. "Excuse me," she said softly, holding out half of her sandwich. "I always pack too much. Would you like to share?" The old janitor looked up, a shocking surprise in his eyes. He seemed hesitant, as if accepting kindness was a foreign concept. But her smile was genuine, and he slowly, gratefully accepted. It wasn't a love story, but an emotional connection of respect. They ate in a comfortable silence, a small island of peace. This simple act, sharing lunch, felt strangely profound. It was a true love for one's fellow man in action. But, of course, the moment couldn't last. Charles would emerge. He was on his way to a meeting, but he stopped dead when he saw them. His two problems together, Sophia Powell and the old janitor. His face darkened, seeing this as a blatant act of disrespect. He didn't make a scene. This time, his attack was slow and calculated. He waited until later that day, summoning Sophia Powell to his office. The humiliation was private this time, which felt even more sinister. "Ms. Powell," he began, steepling his fingers on his vast desk. "I saw your picnic in the atrium. It was unprofessional." He was testing her, trying to break her spirit with his cold authority. This rich man, poor woman dynamic was always at the front of his mind. Sophia was confused. "I was just sharing my lunch, Mr. Wood." Charles leaned in, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "We have a corporate image to maintain. I will not have my tellers fraternizing with the help. It blurs the lines. It looks messy." The humiliation was implied, the threat hanging in the air. He was warning her, choose your side. The banks or the janitors. It was a life-changing ultimatum disguised as a professional warning. Sophia's emotional response was one of quiet fury. "He's a man, Mr. Wood, not just the help. He was hungry." Charles scoffed. "His nutritional habits are not your concern or mine." He dismissed her, that will be all. Sophia left his office, her hands shaking. She wasn't humiliated, she was enraged. The kindness test was becoming harder, the stakes higher. The old janitor saw her leave the CEO's office, her face pale. He knew, instinctively, that Charles would have reprimanded her. He knew she was in trouble because of him, because of her kindness. The plot twist was that this didn't make him want to hide, it made him even more resolved. The owner of this bank needed to see exactly what kind of man Charles was. And what a shocking gem Sophia Powell was. Sophia returned to her station, her resolve hardening. Charles thought he was warning her off, but he had done the opposite. He had just shown her exactly what she was fighting against. This wasn't just about a slow, old janitor anymore. It was about the soul of the bank and her own redemption. Like this video, if you respect Sophia's courage to not back down, she wouldn't let this drama break her. It was time for the quarterly performance meeting, a high-stakes drama. Charles, who presided over the boardroom, tearing apart everyone's numbers. He was brutal, efficient, and shockingly sharp. He expected his managers to be just as sharp. When he posed a complex problem about market flux, the room went silent. His highly paid VPs stared blankly. "Well, I don't pay you to be slow," he snapped. Then a voice in the back of the room spoke. "It's a liquidity trap." It was Sophia Powell. She was only there to take notes for her manager. All eyes turned to her. Charles was visibly stunned into silence. She continued, "We're seeing this pattern because interest rates are at zero. Customers are hoarding cash, not investing. We need to incentivize, not just cut." She laid out a 3-point plan that was simple, elegant, and brilliant. The surprise in the room was palpable. Charles was, for the first time, speechless. He was utterly baffled. This plot twist was not on his agenda. This emotional, soft-hearted teller was a financial shark. Her insight was sharper than anyone else's in that room. He was impressed, deeply impressed, which made him angry. It complicated his narrative. How could she be both a brilliant analyst and the woman wasting time with the old janitor? He couldn't reconcile the two Sophias in his mind. One was a sharp, valuable asset to his bank. The other was, in his view, a bleeding heart fool. This emotional conflict began to eat at him. He started observing her more closely, not just with disdain, but with a shocking new level of confused interest. This love story was definitely not a love story. It was a puzzle. He dismissed the meeting, but held Sophia Powell back. "Your analysis was adequate, Ms. Powell. Where did you learn that?" "I have a degree in finance." "Sir, I just prefer working with people." This baffled him even more. She chose to be a teller? It was a life-changing revelation for him. He was a rich man, poor woman cliché in his thinking, and she was breaking every stereotype he held. But his mind immediately went back to his problem. He couldn't let his newfound respect cloud his judgment. "If you are that smart, Ms. Powell, why are you so fixated on that old janitor? It's a bizarre waste of your talent." He genuinely wanted to understand. It was a kindness test in reverse. Could she justify her fixation logically? He was giving her a chance to join his side. Sophia met his gaze, unflinching. "I don't see kindness and intelligence as mutually exclusive, Mr. Wood." This simple sentence hit Charles like a ton of bricks. It was a shocking rebuke of his entire philosophy. She wasn't just kind despite being smart, she was kind because she was... What one word describes Charles' confusion right now? He had no idea what to do with her. He let her go, his mind reeling. He was drawn to her shocking mind, but repulsed by her weakness. This plot twist was entirely emotional and he hated it. Meanwhile, the old janitor, the secretly owned bank owner, had been told about her performance in the meeting by a manager. He smiled a quiet, knowing smile. Her redemption of the bank was getting closer. A high-value client, a notoriously difficult rich man, was at Sophia's counter. He was loud, arrogant, and causing a massive drama over a minor fee. "Do you know who I am? I could buy this whole bank," he shouted. He humiliated Sophia Powell in front of a long line of customers. "Are you slow or just incompetent? Get me your manager." The humiliation was brutal, personal, and designed to make her cry. Charles would watch from a distance, a cold smirk on his face. He expected her to break. He wanted her to break. He wanted to see the emotional teller collapse under real pressure. This would prove his point kindness's weakness, and she couldn't handle the tough world of high-stakes finance. He waited for the tears. He waited for her to run to a manager, defeated. This was the ultimate kindness test of a cruel world. But Sophia Powell did something shocking. She took a slow, deep breath and met his gaze with perfect calm. "Sir, I understand your frustration, and I can see why you're upset." Her voice was firm and pathetic, but held not a trace of fear. She didn't get defensive, she just handled it. She calmly explained a policy and then offered a solution he hadn't considered, one that saved him face and solved his problem. Her grace under fire was heart-touching and utterly masterful. The client, stunned by her composure, deflated. He went from a roaring lion to a purring kitten in seconds. "Oh, well, yes, that would be acceptable." Sophia Powell smiled. "I'm happy to help you with that right now." She hadn't just solved the problem, she had won the drama. Charles Wood's smirk vanished, replaced by a shocking look of, was it admiration? He was baffled. From across the lobby, the old janitor was mopping. He had stopped his slow movements to watch the entire exchange. He saw the humiliation attempt, and he saw Sophia's incredible grace. He watched her handle the rich man with a strength Charles lacked. When the client walked away, placated, the janitor met Sophia's eye. He didn't just look at her with kind eyes this time. He paused his mopping, stood up straight, and gave a single, deliberate nod. It was a nod of profound respect, a nod of approval. It was a plot twist in their silent communication. This wasn't just a janitor anymore. This was the owner seeing his bank being protected by the lowest-ranking employee. Sophia Powell had faced down a bully, not with power, but with integrity. This life-changing moment was more important than any financial report. She was the real owner of the bank's values. Charles saw the nod. He saw the old janitor's shocking gesture, and he saw Sophia smile back at the janitor, a shared moment. This enraged him. Why did she get that respect? He had just seen her perform brilliantly, handling a client he himself would have struggled with. But her fixation on that old janitor, it was a puzzle he was becoming obsessed with solving. Sophia finished her shift, the emotional toll of the encounter hitting her, but she felt strong. She had stood her ground. She had proven that kindness wasn't weakness, it was a shield. Like this video if you admire Sophia's grace under pressure. She had no idea that her kindness test was being graded by the owner of the bank, secretly owned by the man she just smiled at. Her redemption was coming, but the drama was about to get worse. A few days after the client incident, the drama was still buzzing. A fellow executive, a man just as cold as Charles Wood, cornered him. "I saw your teller." Sophia Powell, cozying up to the janitor again, he sneered. "She's a sharp girl, but that fixation is unprofessional. Makes the bank look soft." He was testing Charles, expecting him to agree, expecting another round of humiliation. This was the normal language of their world, a rich man, poor woman joke. Charles opened his mouth, fully intending to agree. But something shocking happened. The words didn't come. Instead, he heard himself say, "Her client retention numbers are the highest in the branch." The other executive blinked, confused by this non sequitur. What does that have to do with the old janitor? Charles would felt a strange, emotional surge. It means she's doing her job. Leave her alone. Focus on your own department's slow performance. The surprise was total, mostly for Charles himself. He walked away, leaving the other man stunned, his own mind reeling. Why had he done that? He had just offended the very person who represented the weakness he was trying to purge from a bank. It was a plot twist in his own character, an involuntary act. He was drawn to her integrity, to her heart-touching strength. It was a quality he secretly craved but didn't know how to possess. This drama was becoming deeply personal. This emotional conflict was new to him. His entire worldview was built on the idea that power was everything. Yet, Sophia Powell, with no power, had more. Something. Than he did. It was a shocking realization that terrified him. This wasn't a love story, it was a fundamental crisis of his identity. He, Charles Wood, the ruthless CEO, was being changed by a kind-hearted teller and her defense of slow old janitor. He found himself watching her, not as a hawk, but as a student. He saw how she diffused tension, how she built trust. He realized her kindness wasn't a flaw, it was a shockingly effective tool. A tool he had no idea how to use. This plot twist was life-changing. He was a rich man, but she possessed a wealth he couldn't quantify. The owner of the bank would have valued her. He grudgingly admitted her redemption of his cold philosophy was beginning, but this new, soft feeling made him angry. He felt weak. He hated this emotional confusion. He was Charles Wood. He didn't defend people, he managed them. This love story. No, this drama was a distraction. He resolved to double down, to be more ruthless. He had to prove that his way was right, that this heart-touching feeling was a temporary lapse, a humiliation to his logic. He decided he needed to make a big move, one that would reestablish his dominance and kill this shocking new feeling inside him. He needed to prove that kindness was weakness, and he knew exactly who his target would be. The old janitor was the source of this fixation. To save Sophia from her own weakness, and to save himself, he would have to remove the source of the problem permanently. His internal conflict was a raging war. His logic was fighting his newfound something. He was drawn to Sophia Powell, but he was about to make a choice that would prove he was unworthy of her respect. His redemption was within reach, but he was about to choose damnation. This life-changing drama was about to reach its peak, and he was the one lighting the fuse. The day of the major bank inspection arrived. The air was electric, the drama palpable. Charles was under immense, crushing stress. His entire career, his reputation, hinged on this day. He was prowling the floors, a caged tiger, looking for any flaw. Everything had to be perfect. His leadership was on the line. The owner of the bank was watching this inspection's results closely. Then he saw it, a fire exit door, slightly ajar. A minor infraction, but in a high-security bank, it was a security breach. He felt a surge of rage. He needed a scapegoat, and he needed one now. And just then, the old janitor came around the corner, pushing his mop. He was slow, methodical, and completely oblivious. It was the perfect, twisted opportunity. This was a final kindness test, and Charles was ready to fail it. "You!" Charles roared, his voice echoing in the marble hall. The old janitor stopped, his eyes wide with surprise. "You left this door open. This is a major security breach. During inspection, no less. I am surrounded by fools." The janitor tried to speak, "But sir, I haven't been in this." "Silence," Charles snapped. The humiliation was public and brutal. He was humiliated by the stress and was now passing it on. This was the culmination of all his frustration with the slow janitor, his emotional conflict over Sophia Powell, his hatred of his own weakness. He saw the old janitor as the symbol of everything wrong. "I told you this bank is not a retirement home. You are a liability." He pointed a shaking finger at the man. "You're fired. Get your things." Now, the shocking words hung in the air. Employees froze. This wasn't a reprimand, it was an execution. To fire a man, an old janitor, on the spot for a minor and likely unproven offense was a life-changing act of malice. The humiliation was so total, so emotional, it left everyone breathless. The old janitor just stood there, humiliated, his face pale. He didn't fight. He didn't argue. He just looked. Sad. Sophia Powell watched from her station, her blood turning to ice. She had seen the drama unfold, seen the injustice. She knew that janitor was meticulous. He would never do that. She saw Charles' face, twisted in a mask of stress and rage. He wasn't a boss, he was a bully. This heart-touching scene of cruelty was a final straw. The kindness test was over. Charles had failed. The old janitor slowly turned his cart around. He didn't even go to a locker. He just started to walk away. His steps, once just slow, now seemed heavy, defeated. Charles would watch him go, a look of cold, hollow victory on his face. He had purged the weakness. He had won. He had cemented his power through an act of shocking cruelty. Or so he thought. What one word describes Charles' attitude in this exact moment? He had just fired the secretly owned bank owner. That was the ultimate plot twist, and he was completely blind to it. He had humiliated the one man who held his entire fate in his hands. He had no idea that in this moment of victory, he had just triggered his own redemption, or his final downfall. The life-changing consequences were just about to begin. The bank was silent, the shocking event settling like toxic dust. Then, Sophia Powell unclipped her name badge. She walked away from her station, her face pale but resolute. The drama wasn't over. Oh no, it was just entering its second act. She marched directly toward Charles Wood, who was basking in his power. The emotional energy coming off her was so intense, people backed away. This was no longer a rich man, poor woman dynamic. This was an equal. Mr. Wood, she said, her voice shaking but clear as a bell. He turned, annoyed. Not now, Ms. Powell. Yes, now, she said. Tears of pure, hot anger welled in her eyes. You are a heartless, petty coward. The bank lobby gasped. No one had ever spoken to Charles Wood that way. It was a shocking, life-changing moment of pure defiance. This wasn't a love story. This was a war for the bank's soul. Charles' face went from smug to shockingly pale. What did you just say to me? He whispered, his voice lethal. You humiliated that man. Sophia continued, the tears now streaming. You humiliated him just to make yourself feel powerful, because you are terrified of this inspection. He did nothing. She was giving voice to what everyone else was too afraid to think. It was a heart-touching display of loyalty, not to the bank, but to a person. That old janitor has more integrity in his little finger, she declared, than you have in your entire, empty, sterile body. She wasn't just offending the janitor. She was passing judgment on Charles. This kindness test was one she had aced, and she was now grading him. She held up her name badge and her security pass. I will not work for a man like you. I will not be part of this. The drama had reached its absolute peak. She didn't just hand him her resignation. She threw it on the floor at his feet. I resign, effective immediately. The finality of it, the emotional weight, was crushing. Sophia Powell, the brilliant teller, the heart of the bank, was out. She had just committed career suicide for an old janitor. Like this video as a sign of respect for Sophia's courage. It was the ultimate act of true love for principle over profit. Charles was stunned. Absolutely, totally stunned. This was a plot twist he had never anticipated. He had fired a janitor to solve a problem, but he had just created a shockingly larger one. He had lost the bank's most brilliant mind and its kindest heart. The humiliation he had inflicted on the janitor had just boomeranged and humiliated him in front of everyone. Sophia didn't look back. She walked past the janitor's abandoned cart. She walked out the front doors of the bank, leaving a void. The drama was over, and the silence that remained was deafening. Charles was left standing there, her resignation at his feet, the entire bank staff staring at him, not with fear, but with contempt. The owner, the janitor, had already left the building, but this act had sealed Charles' fate. The inspection, the stress, his power. It all felt meaningless. He had just been called a coward by Sophia Powell. And the worst part, the shocking, secret part, he knew deep down that she was absolutely right. His redemption seemed impossible. He had lost. This life-changing moment was the end. Or was it the beginning? Charles was sit alone in his sterile, glass-walled office. The bank was closed. The inspectors were gone. He had passed. The breach was dismissed as a staffing issue that he had handled decisively. He had won. But the silence was overwhelming. There was no drama, no emotional energy. Nothing at the bank felt like a tomb, and he was its only resident. He had won the battle. He had asserted his dominance. He had fired the slow old janitor and proven his point. He had even survived the shocking resignation of Sophia Powell. So why did this feel like a crushing defeat? This was a false Dorota in full effect. He had everything he thought he wanted: control, power, efficiency, but he had lost the one person who made him feel. A human. His redemption felt further away than ever. He kept replaying the drama of the day in his mind. The humiliation on the janitor's face, the heart-touching fire in Sophia's eyes as she called him a coward. He had dismissed kindness as a weakness, a flaw, but her weakness had been stronger than his power. Her resignation was a braver act than any firing he had ever done. This plot twist was purely internal. An emotional reckoning. He realized he was the one who had failed the kindness test. He was a rich man in the suit, but he was spiritually bankrupt. Sophia Powell and the old janitor were the ones with true love. This wasn't a love story between them, but a love for something bigger than integrity, decency, the values he had traded for a corner office. That all seemed lost. He was alone in his perfect, empty bank. He had achieved his goal, but he had lost his soul. This life-changing moment was his rock bottom. He had no one to blame but himself. He finally understood. He had humiliated the janitor to prove he was strong, but he had only proven he was weak. He had secretly owned nothing but his own fear. Then a strange, shocking feeling crept in: guilt. It was a profound, crushing guilt. He thought about the old janitor, a man who had lost his job for no reason. Just before the holidays, he thought about Sophia Powell, a brilliant woman now unemployed because she had dared to have a conscience. This was the drama he had created. He had to fix it. This wasn't about the bank anymore. It wasn't about Sophia Powell. It was about his own redemption. He had to try it. He picked up his phone. A shocking new resolve on his face. He would find the janitor. He would apologize. He would beg him to come back. He had no idea that this decision was the first step into a plot twist so big it would redefine his entire world. He didn't know where to start. How do you find a janitor in a city of millions? He called HR, demanding the man's file. He was Charles Wood, CO. He would fix this. He would win Sophia Powell back by proving he could change. He was about to follow a lead that would unravel the shocking secret of the old janitor's secretly owned bank. All was not lost. It was just the beginning. The guilt was a physical weight. Crushing Charles with this emotional reckoning was a new, terrible drama. He had to find the old janitor. It wasn't just about redemption. It was a compulsion, a need to undo the humiliation he had caused. He pulled the janitor's file. The name was simple. The address a P.O. box. The man was a ghost. This plot twist was frustrating. This janitor was proving to be more than just a slow old man. He spent all night using the bank's powerful resources. Digging, he felt like a detective in a twisted love story where he was a villain. He was trying to find the man he had wronged. But the man had vanished. This surprise only deepened his obsession. And who was this man? This life-changing search was becoming an enigma. He felt like the rich man in a parable, searching for the poor man he had cast aside, only to find the man was never poor at all. Then, a shocking breakthrough. He tracked the man's Social Security payments to a holding company to the company. That Charles Wood knew it was a high-level investment firm, one that did business with the bank. His blood ran cold. This made no sense. Why would an old janitor be linked to a multi-billion-dollar firm? The drama just took a sharp, unbelievable turn. His emotional state was a cocktail of confusion and dread. He followed the breadcrumbs, his heart hammering. The holding company's address wasn't an office. It was an airfield, a private executive airfield that Charles drove there in the pre-dawn light. Convinced he was chasing a ghost, a shocking mistake. He was humiliated by his own desperation, chasing a slow janitor. But the lead was all his redemption depended on. Seeing this through, he arrived at the hangar, and there was a gleaming, state-of-the-art Gulfstream G700, a shocking sight. This jet was worth more than his entire division of the bank. He was about to turn away, convinced this was a wild goose chase. This wasn't the world of an old janitor. It was the world of an owner. This plot twist was too much to handle. He felt his reality beginning to warp. Then he saw him walking across the tarmac, not slow, but with purpose. It was the old janitor. He wasn't wearing his faded blue uniform. He was wearing a hand-tailored suit that screamed old money. He was flanked by two men who looked like high-level security. Charles had just stood there, his mind unable to process the surprise. The life-changing humiliation was now all. The kindness test had been complete. Set up, he watched as a janitor prepared to board his private jet. This was a man he had mocked for being slow. This was a man he had humiliated over spilled coffee. This was a man Sophia Powell had defended with true love. Charles felt his knees go weak. The drama had reached its climax. The old janitor secretly owned everything. This was the ultimate plot twist. Charles stepped out of the car, his legs trembling. He had to face the man he had destroyed, only to find out the man was the one who had built him. The old janitor paused on the steps of the jet. As if sensing him, he turned, his eyes not kind, not sad, but sharp. Mr. Wood, the janitor said, his voice no longer meek, but full of command. I was wondering if you'd show up. Charles was stood frozen on the tarmac. The humiliation complete. The man in the suit, the old janitor, walked back down the steps. That you look. Got confused, Charles, he said, his voice crisp and educated. The shocking transformation was a life-changing plot twist. The man who had been slow and silent was now the most powerful figure Charles had ever met. The drama was overwhelming. I don't understand, Charles stammered. No, I don't suppose you do. The owner replied, a hint of sadness. My name is Arthur Pendleton. I founded this bank 50 years ago. The shocking surprise hit Charles like a physical blow. He wasn't just an owner. He was the owner, the founder, the majority shareholder. The man secretly owned it all. The uniform, Arthur said, was that tooled up my retirement project. This old janitor was a king in disguise. That I go undercover my own companies. I get to see the truth. He explained this was his ultimate kindness test. I test the character of my leadership. I see who they are when they think no one important is watching. He looked Charles dead in the eye. His gaze piercing. I see the drama, the humiliation, the cruelty, and the kindness. Charles felt humiliated on a molecular level. He had failed. Oh, God. He had failed every act of cruelty, every sneer at the slow janitor, every time he had humiliated this man. He had done it to the owner of the entire bank. This wasn't just a career-ending mistake. It was an existential one. He had shown his true, ugly self to the one man who mattered. His quest for redemption seemed like a joke. Arthur continued, I like to see the rich man, poor woman dynamic in action. It reveals a person's core to your core, Charles. It is rotten. The words were spoken calmly, which made him even more emotional. Charles had no defense. He had no excuses. He just stood there. The rich man brought low by the old janitor, who was, in fact, the richest man of all. It was a life-changing dose of karmic justice. That I was testing your character. Charles, I wanted to see if you were just a numbers man, or if you had a heart-touching soul. That Arthur paced slowly. But you showed me that day after day that your impatience, your cruelty, your humiliation of the staff. You confuse fear with respect. The classic, fatal mistake. Charles couldn't even speak. He was shockingly broken. This was the ultimate plot twist of his entire life. He had based his entire philosophy on strength. But he had been bullying the strongest man in the building. He had prided himself on being smart, on seeing the angles, but he had been blind to the shocking truth right in front. The old janitor was the owner. Sophia Powell was a hero, and he, Charles Wood, was the fool. The drama had completely inverted. He finally understood the kind eyes Arthur reserved for Sophia Powell. She hadn't just been defending a janitor. She had been defending the owner of the bank. But she hadn't known she defended him when he was nothing. That was the key. Her true love and kindness were real. She had passed the kindness test with flying colors, and Charles had failed in a way that was shockingly absolute. That Charles would finally found his voice, though it was hollow. So you're going to fire me after all the humiliation? That Arthur Pendleton, the owner, looked at him with shocking expression. It wasn't anger, it was that disappointment. Of firing you is an easy answer, Charles, and I don't like easy answers. He gestured the bank in the distance. You're brilliant with numbers, but you're a drama to your people. You failed the kindness test. Arthur stated plainly, that miserably. But Arthur paused, and Charles held his breath. One person passed. She passed in a way I have never seen. He didn't even need to say her name. That Sophia Powell. She is the soul of that bank. She is what I built it to be. This heart-touching praise for Sophia made Charles feel even smaller. She was a redemption he had thrown away. Do you see, Charles? You have a problem. Arthur continued. You tore down the only two people who mattered, the old janitor, who secretly owned the bank, and the teller who secretly owned at heart. This plot twist was a masterclass in humility. Charles had been so focused on the rich man, poor woman dynamic. He had missed the true love and true power right in front of him that Charles nodded, accepted his fate. What do I do? You failed the test, Arthur said. But Sophia Powell passed. She passed for you, her emotional strength, her true love. And it's the only thing saving you right now. This surprise was the most shocking one of all. He wasn't being saved by a performance, but by Sophia's. This life-changing moment was his only hope. Arthur gave him one chance at a single, impossible path to redemption. I don't believe people are unchangeable, Charles, just slow to learn. He smiled faintly, using Charles' own insult. Prove you've changed. That's your one chance. Charles looked up, confused. How? How do I prove it? Arthur's eyes hardened. Win her back. This wasn't a love story proposal. It was a command. Win Sophia Powell back, not for yourself, but for the bank that proved to her, and to me, that you finally understand she is the future that you are on probation. The owner was giving him a final, impossible kindness test. He had to earn the respect of the woman he had allowed to resign. He had to prove he was worthy of his own redemption. The drama was no longer about his career. It was about his soul. Charles felt a shocking surge of hope. He had a path. It was the hardest path imaginable, but it was a path. He had to undo his humiliation. He had to embrace the emotional core he had rejected. This plot twist was his last chance. That I will, Charles said, his voice firm for the first time. Good, Arthur said, turning for the jet. The bank is watching. The Arthur paused one last time. Oh, and Charles? Yes, sir. You have 24 hours to get her back, and you'll do it my way. The owner had a plan, a shocking, public plan. This drama was about to have a very public finale. This life-changing day was only just getting started. The redemption would have to be as public as the humiliation the next morning. Charles would call an emergency. All hands meeting. The bank was buzzing. The drama was at an all-time high. Everyone assumed Charles was going to address the shocking resignation of Sophia Powell and the firing of the old janitor. They expected excuses, corporate spin, more humiliation. Charles stood on the stage, pale and nervous. This was his kindness test, his one shot at redemption. Thank you all for coming, he started. His voice hollowed. Yesterday was a life-changing day. I made mistakes. The bank staff exchanged shocking looks. This was not the CEO they knew. I am here to introduce the man who will be leading us forward. A plot twist. Was Charles resigning? Please welcome Mr. Arthur Pendleton. The name meant nothing to most. Then the old janitor walked onto the stage. But he wasn't a slow old janitor. He was a man from the airfield, dressed in an impeccable suit, radiating power and quiet dignity. The entire bank gasped as one. The shocking surprise was total. It was a janitor. It was a man they had all ignored. The emotional explosion in the room was deafening. This was a plot twist to end all plot twists. Arthur took the microphone. Good morning. His voice boomed with the authority of the true owner. I have been your janitor for the last 6 months. He let that sink in. The humiliation in the room was palpable, but this time it was shared by everyone who had ever ignored him. I have been conducting a kindness test to see the bank's soul. He looked right at Charles, who stood, humbled, to the side. I saw the drama. I saw the fear. I saw the humiliation. Arthur's voice was cold. I saw a culture, led by Mr. Wood, that valued profit over people. They failed my test. Charles visibly flinched, accepting the public judgment. But Arthur's voice softened. I also saw profound kindness. I saw one person whose true love for her fellow human beings. He turned to the audience. Please welcome Sophia Powell. Sophia walked onto the stage, confused, her face shockingly pale. She had been summoned there, having no idea what was happening. Arthur smiled, the heart-touching, kindled smile of the janitor. Sophia, you defended a slow old janitor. Not knowing he was the owner, you showed grace under fire. You are the moral compass of this bank. The drama was now a full-blown redemption story. This life-changing moment was for her. Arthur continued. I saw Charles Wood's cruelty, but I also saw Sophia Powell's profound emotional strength. She is the standard. She is the future. He praised her for passing the kindness test no one knew she was taking. This rich man, poor woman story was not what it seemed. The poor woman was being crowned queen. The love story was one of integrity winning that. And that is why Arthur Pendleton announced, his voice booming, effective immediately, I am promoting Sophia Powell to be the new head of community relations for the entire bank. The shocking surprise was met with a wave of stunned silence, which then exploded into the loudest, most emotional applause that bank had ever heard. It was a heart-touching moment. Sophia Powell stood there, tears streaming down her face. This was the ultimate plot twist from teller to a high-level executive in a single moment. It was a life-changing redemption for her sacrifice. She had defended the old janitor, and now the owner was rewarding her true love and integrity. This wasn't a love story. It was a story of justice. The drama had finally resolved in the most shocking way. Then Arthur turned to Charles. The applause died instantly. That Mr. with his one more thing to say. This was it, that his final kindness test. His one chance. That Charles stepped forward, his hand shaking, humiliated but changed. He faced the entire bank. He faced Sophia Powell. That I am sorry, he said, his voice breaking. The shocking vulnerability was more powerful than his anger ever was. I was a bully. I was a coward. He used Sophia's own words. I humiliated a good man, he said, looking at Arthur. And I drove away the best person in this bank, he said, looking at Sophia. My humiliation of the janitor was a reflection of my own emptiness. This emotional confession was his rock bottom. And his first step up, he was no longer the rich man in the suit. He was just a man begging for redemption. He turned directly to Sophia Powell. In front of everyone to Sophia, he said, his voice rawed, you were right about everything. I don't deserve to be your boss. I don't deserve to be in this bank. The drama was intense. What one word describes Charles' redemption? But the owner has given me one chance to prove I've changed. He was laying his soul bare. He took a step toward her. I am begging you for a second chance, not as your boss, he paused, but as a man who finally understands what true worth is. Please, stay. Help me fix this. Help me. Change. The bank held its breath. The love story wasn't a rich man, poor woman trope anymore. It was a slow, difficult journey toward redemption. Sophia looked at Charles, humiliated and broken. Then she looked at Arthur, the old janitor who was the owner. She saw the heart-touching truth. Kindness wasn't weakness. It was power. She wiped her tears and took a deep breath. This life-changing plot twist was now in her hands. She nodded, a single, slow nod. It stayed. Well, try true love. Not of romance, but of humanity. I had one that today's story reminds us of. Some of the world tries to make us forget a person's true worth isn't in their title or their bank account, but in how they treat the people they don't need anything from. Kindness is not weakness. It is the most shocking power there is. If you also believe that kindness is a superpower and that integrity is worth more than gold, then you've found your place to subscribe and join our community of people who believe in the best of humanity to get this message out further. Like this video as a sign of respect for Sophia and Arthur. Comment with the one word that describes what you felt during the final plot twist. Share this story with one person who needs to see kindness win. And while you wait for the next story, know that our channel is a treasure chest of emotional journeys, just like this one, that explore older videos and discover other heart-touching and surprising stories that will move you to make sure you never miss any of the incredible life-changing twists we have yet to tell. Hit the notification bell to stay tuned for channel updates. You won't want to miss the next wave of emotions. Thank you for watching. And remember, treat the janitor the same way you treat the owner.